Engaging audiences. First up is Ellen Torres Thompson from the Lawrence Hall of Science.
Alrighty. Ooh, hi, friends. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here today and tell you all about our latest program, The Sun's Fury, an OpenSpace live and interactive show. I'm going to be going pretty fast because I can yap about the show all day, and I'm also going to try to get you all to interact with me. And most excitedly, I will be showing some little video clips from a recorded show. Just a tiny bit about me. I started as a student presenter. I've been full-time for the past 3 years, and I spend most of my time programming live and interactive shows using WorldViewer and OpenSpace. But I also get to change things. Is there like a handheld one? No. Oh man, I like walking around. There is a handheld one. Here's a handheld. I'm just. Oh, that's so much fun. Oh, is it on? Hello? Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, this actually fits into this slide, is that we have a small dome with a 44-person capacity, so I'm very used to getting into the audience. A fun fact, we're the first live and interactive planetarium. Ooh, fun. We are currently running a lot of shows. We have 3 on weekdays, 4 on weekends and holidays. We also have some school camp slots on weekdays. Most of these programs are open space, diving into the blue planet. Today's subject, the Sun's Fury. This is actually an advertisement that is displayed in the back of the dome during our planetarium pilots drop-in experience, which is also open space. Okay, well, let's talk about the Sun's Fury. It was developed as part of the NASA Copies program, and it debuted on Saturday, December 21st, 2024. You can call out loud if you know what was special about that day. Yeah, it was the winter solstice. That's right. And I'm mostly going to be talking about open space and in this program, but I do just want to share something really important that we do in all of our shows, which is integrating cultural astronomy. So in this program, as well as our stargazing show, we talk about the name of the sun. So the Lawrence Hall of Science sits on the unceded land of the Ohlone people, and we talk about the name of the sun in Chochenyo, which is Hishman. Can everyone try to say Hishman? Very nice. And then the English name of the sun, you might know, sun comes from Suna, a Norse goddess. With the raised hand, would anyone like to share another name for the sun in another language? You can share in the mic for everyone if you want.
Sol in Spanish.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, El Sol in Spanish. Yeah, we have El Sol in Spanish, a couple others we often talk about. Taiyong in Mandarin, carried by the sun goddess Shihe. And I'm Filipino, so I always like to say that sun is Araw, which also means day in Tagalog. And this is an Ohlone basket that is a thank you gift for Hishman. Once we've familiarized ourselves with names of the sun, we watch the sunset on the winter solstice at the Lawrence Hall of Science. I actually play the closing announcement for the hall, and we see that it's dark at 5 p.m. And then we watch the night pass by. We travel to 11 a.m., and I pass out a flashlight to a kid at this point.
Is jumping time 6 months in the future to the summer solstice on June 20th, 2025, and see if the sun moves. All right, my friends with the pointer, can you tell me, did the sun stay in place or did it move?
Yeah, it moved! Amazing! Then we also time travel to 5 p.m. on this day. We see that the sun is high up in the sky at the Lawrence when we're closing in the summer, and then we watch the sunset. At this point, we are almost ready to blast off to outer space and see the sun up close. But it might look a little different than how you expect. So before we can blast off, we have to determine the color of the sun. And I do this with a little activity using a polar bear stuffy and the cove lights of the dome. So this is just like the tail end of that when we've confirmed that the sun should be white.
White. All right, now what color is our polar bear? Now it's white. Yeah, so what color must the sun be? The sun is a white star, that's right.
Wow, we know that the sun is white now, and we can even see that now in OpenSpace. So this is just a little bit of code from an asset I have for the sun in visible. The sun viewed with visible light, you got to be really careful about invisible light because it sounds like invisible. But yeah, this is a custom asset. There's a similar one on the OpenSpace Hub. I've also put this and a bunch of other stuff from this show in the OpenSpace Hub. So we fly over and once again ask, what do we see?
All right, what do we observe? White and black. We see that the sun.
Wow, so cool. And then we talk about the sunspots a little bit later in the show. These videos keep wanting to play twice. I'm just gonna keep clicking through. There we go. While we're looking at the sun being a white star, we also compare it to a couple of planets. I'll say, oh, well, these sunspots can be as big as Earth or Jupiter. It might be really hard for you to see Earth. It's right here. Yeah, I really like this comparison. Actually, I got to present the show at FISC last week for LIPS. And one person at the conference who does not come from an astronomy background came up to me afterwards and said that this was the first time that she learned about this scale. So she really appreciated this OpenSpace asset, which is on OpenSpace Hub. And after we talk about the size of the sun, we talk about the electromagnetic spectrum. We do the activity with the incandescent light bulb and a diffraction grating, talk about how white light is really made up of all the colors of the rainbow. And then we walk through the electromagnetic spectrum, pairing sun data with everyday images. So this is a user asset I made of the UV sun using data from the NOAA catalog. I know the default sun layer is UV, but I really like this particular one, so I made this one. And then we have a butterfly which can see some UV light, and we have those in our outdoor nature lab downstairs. Also some sunscreen to protect you from UV rays. And then here is another user asset from NOAA data, from SOS data of X-rays, paired with a picture of a person's X-ray. This is actually our student presenter, Hope, who happened to be going to the doctor for a neck problem while I was making the show and asked me if we could use her X-ray. So thanks, Hope. Then we talk about the solar magnetic field, but I don't actually tell anyone what it is yet. I turn on the OpenSpace model. It's from the full profile potential field source surface model from 2012. So I put that up, and then I put up a picture of a bar magnet with iron filings, and we compare the patterns.
So if these are magnetic field lines, what do we think these green lines are? They're also magnetic.
Whoa, so cool, it's a magnetic field.
So if these
And then we do a simple activity, putting up a panoramic of 11 pictures of the sun across 11 years. And I tell everyone to turn and talk to a neighbor, count all the sunspots on all the years, try to figure out which has the least and which has the most. And then I ask us to say the answers all together. So we have a solar minimum photo from 2020 and solar maximum from 2024. I also like to do if you are younger than 11, raise your hand. Whoa, congratulations, you have all just experienced your first solar maximum. Then we talk about the solar wind. I'll explain that it's plasma intertwined with the solar magnetic field, and that we're going to be seeing these big loops, which are coronal mass ejections. When you think you see a CME, make your best explosion sounds. And this also is just from OpenSpace Full Profile. It's an NLIL model from July 2012. All I did was get the right camera view and customize the colors. I used the gamma a lot to make it look really funky and colorful. Boom! Kaboom! Then we talk about the Earth's magnetic field and space weather. So once again, this is just from the OpenSpace Full Profile. This is the BATRUS J12 model of Earth's magnetosphere. I just tweaked the color a bit. And then I actually, for both the previous sequence and this one, those are both OpenSpace recordings where I got like the perfect amount of time to pass to make it look really snazzy. And this one we fly around a little. So I'll explain while we're looking at it that Earth's magnetosphere protects us from the sun's fury. And we then start to talk about space weather.
Interactions between the solar wind and Earth's magnetic field are called space weather. Can everyone say weather. Space weather. It's like regular weather, but in space.
Really using my astrophysics degree there. Alrighty. Finally, we talk about some of the things that our magnetosphere doesn't actually protect us from, or things that are not protected. Potentially, a geomagnetic storm could damage a GPS satellite, really any satellite, but I feel like these are the most familiar to people. I have them from OpenSpace, and I like to make them really blown up, the data points, so they're big and green. And then we talk about how, if the International Space Station astronauts want to go on a spacewalk, they gotta wait for it to be safe, because if they go out during bad space weather, then they could get hurt. So we look at the ISS model in OpenSpace. And that's pretty much the show. We see one more thing. We actually land on Earth and we look at some aurora, the prettiest and safest effect of space weather. But that is pretty much the show. I saw my 5-minute. I have one silly slide, and then I'm very happy to take questions and discussion. These are just some program reviews. My boss's boss said that it's a perfect example of what we try to do at the Lawrence. And then I love this comment card where someone, boss's boss's boss, that's right. And then I love this comment card somebody wrote that says that our show is so much more interesting, engaging, and respectful of the kids than what typically passes for a planetarium show these days. I'm like, okay, I appreciate the positive feedback, but you didn't have to drag all the other domes like that. Something else that's just also really fun about this show is our student staff really love presenting it. They always have a lot of fun. That's my slides, and I'm happy to take questions. Excellent question. I'm glad you asked. So the one that lives in the Lawrence Hall of Science is Aurora Borealis, but she's very hard at work at the Lawrence right now. What time is it in California? 11:30. Okay, so she's going to be working in half an hour. Yeah, we're at 2 hours. Yeah, and so I had to hire her body double, Polaris, when I brought her to LIPS last week. So that's her in the Fisk. Other questions, thoughts? Yeah.
Do you have somebody else operating the old lights for yourself?
Good question. So the way that I usually do that, it is nice if there's someone else, and then I can just say hey, Mary, give me the red lights. But if it's just me, or whenever it's just one presenter, what we'll usually do is say, hey, I need a brave volunteer to hold this bear, and then give it to a kid, maybe make them stand and hold it up really high. And kids always have fun with that. Luckily, I've never run into them not wanting to give it back, so that's nice. You have? Oh, no.
Well, a 4-year-old, he really wanted to keep it.
Oh, no. She lives here. This is her house.
He gave it a big old hug before.
Oh. We sell it in the gift shop, yeah. Mm-hmm. Someone had an adult had just bought it before the show, and then during the show, she brought it out of her bag. She was like, whoa, I have the same bear. I know the bear's not actually OpenSpace, but it's my favorite part of the show. Anything else? I went really, really fast in case there were questions and things. But yeah, like I said, a bunch of the custom assets from the show are on the OpenSpace Hub. I just put them up. Thanks, Micah, for helping me with this silly error. So you can download the visible sun and the scale Jupiter and the scale Earth.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Next up, we have Vince from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Would you like to be mobile? Okay. And then just there.
Fine, possibly.
If they don't want to stay on the podium.
15, okay, sweet. Okay, gotcha.
I'm not
All
walking
right.
around.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Vince. I'm from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. I am an educated performer there. We have about 12 educated performers who work in Space Odyssey. Actually, we just got 9 more of them who will be trained eventually to do all these different shows and to use OpenSpace at our museum. So where exactly or who uses OpenSpace, or where we use it, is in our Space Odyssey gallery here. And we use it right on our space screen. It's a really big screen right in the middle of our gallery, pretty much. And Space Odyssey is a pretty open layout, although I realize not as open as Aim and Nature's layout. But we do a lot of shows here. So here's one of my colleagues out on the surface of Mars. We call it astronaut on the surface. So they're engaging with guests, imagination, all that fun stuff. So what would it be like to live on Mars in the year 2048? We may have to change that date in the future, probably. It's coming up. Yeah. So yeah, our guests can freely roam around our Space Odyssey gallery, and where we do our open space interaction is right on our space screen. But we also do, this is just a short list of what we do at our space screen that's also accompanied with our Traveling the Universe show, which is where we use open space. But we do liquid nitrogen demonstrations, so right there you can just barely see one of my colleagues right there. We do story time, which you can see at the upper top right there. So we bring out our planetary rugs and lay them out, and all the little kindergarten first graders hang out with them. And also, my favorite, they all like try and hang out on the moon. That's like a 2-foot radius, maybe, but they all love it. And then also our traveling right there. But we also do Science Friction, which is a game, kind of trivia game. We do Interstellar Home Finders, which kind of like explore different planets, celestial bodies. What would it be like to live on those different bodies? And ArtStation Europa and ArtStation Titan, which is a scientific illustration, kind of like Bob Ross, kind of led by our educators, and they get to take home that piece of art afterwards. But while we're using, in our show, Traveling the Universe, we use OpenSpace as the primary tool, but we also have a curated list of photographs on our computer file that allows us to quickly navigate and pull up different images so that guests can see what would be like, what is the weather on Mars? Or when we talk about these dust storms, can we quickly bring that up too? Because we are learning with the guests, my background is geology, so I hope to God we stay on the rocky planets. But if we ever get questions about like, what's the temperature of Uranus? I'm not gonna know that. Yeah, cold. But yeah, I'm not gonna know that. So we're just gonna go ahead, pull up Google. You can sort of barely see that we have Google right there, but there's also a chance for our educators to interact with guests. How do you search for sources? Where do you go? Do you just click on the first link on the Google page? Or do you scroll down a little bit, try and navigate to that NASA page that you're curious about? So that leads us to having more informal interactions with our guests. This show, unlike the previous ones that we kind of looked at before, the liquid nitrogen, astronaut on the surface, they are timed shows. They roughly take around 10 to 15 minutes long to perform. They have a beginning, middle, and end. Traveling, however, OpenSpace does not. So our educators can be out on the floor for as long as they want to, as long as guests are willing to talk to them, actually, without getting too bored. But yeah, if there was anyone out there, we're going to be talking with them. So we can go from interactions with our summer camp groups, like 30 kids. And if they say, let's say we have a planetarium show that they have to get to, well, then they can leave our space screen, go off to the planetarium show, and maybe we're just left with a couple of, like 40 years old. Yeah, what do they want to talk about with us? So it does change from show to show. Our audience can change from show to show and from minute to minute within shows too. So this is kind of like what our educators are looking at. While the guests are looking at the beautiful space screen of the planets, this is what we're looking at. So the user interface up at the top right there is how we pilot around and all that fun stuff. We have our amazing images file here. So if we want to talk about the moon and all that fun stuff, right, the previous Apollo missions, future missions, moon formation, we can quickly pull that up. Because it's all about the guest's curiosity, you may have something you want to talk about, and I'll dive that into a little bit later on. But it's all about the guest's curiosity. And on the left here, we have Dr. Kachoon's quick links that he made for us because we are adapting very quickly to the guest curiosity. And oftentimes it's the 7-year-olds that, okay, what about this? My favorite story is we had a kid come that I presume came immediately from our gift shop, decked out in one of the astronaut suits that he bought, or his parents bought him, and he had a big space book too, So he just laid down on the floor, and we just went through that book one page at a time. It's like, okay, bud, what's next, right? Okay, oh, sweet, Venus, what do you know about that, So we're learning with the guests, letting them drive the interaction. So I may have, as I said earlier, if we have guests that are, working up the courage to ask us questions, or if they're just a little bit shy. My background is geology, so I'll talk about, the volcanism on Earth, the volcanism on Mars, compare and contrast. But as soon as we get that hand going up, what about Saturn? It doesn't matter what I was talking about anymore. We can just go ahead and go straight to Saturn then, okay? Because it's all about serving the guests and igniting curiosity in the moment with them. So as long as we're creating that sense of wonder, that sense of nature in the moment, it doesn't matter necessarily what I was talking about, what I wanted to convey, as long as we're exciting them and getting them, excited about open space and excited about space in general too. So I mentioned earlier about supplemental images that we use. So this allows us to quickly adapt to popular topics. We always get questions about black holes. So we can bring up a diagram about stellar life cycle, the actual photo of Sagittarius A black hole, like why not? We have the photo, why not we use it? We can talk about previous moon missions and future ones. So this is an artist interpretation of what the Clipper will look like when it gets to Europa in 5 years. And also, yeah, we can do that astronomy at night, right? Lock onto Denver and go ahead and pan and advance time across the night sky as well. So what allows us to do is just quickly open up that computer file, just quickly drag it over to our space screen where guests can view it very quickly because we are adapting to their curiosity. And oftentimes we go through a lot of different images, and then as we're piloting or flying around, we can clear the cache and answer that next kid's questions. So we've been really using OpenSpace this year. We kind of got trained in the end of October of last year. And with the new user interface, it's making it a lot easier for our educators to adapt. Within our kind of full part-time staff, there's over 30 of us, me, myself, and my colleagues. There's a lot of us here. And around 21 of us that are trained in Space Odyssey to do this stuff. So we've been taking track of what the interactions are. And it's kind of hard a little bit. You can see just how open our space screen is. So guests can get as close as they want to our space screen. They can hang out on those rugs, but oftentimes we do see them hanging out in the back here, kind of, engaging at their own level of comfortableness. And then eventually maybe they will walk up to us and interact with us. But well over 5,200 overall general interactions with both between adult and child interactions. But yeah, this Traveling Universe is one of my favorite shows to do at the Denver Museum. Because of the autonomy, the informalness, and you're just learning together. I think it's kind of the best part of it. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
As you get more familiar with OpenSpace, are there things that audiences ask for that are hard to pull off or missing from it?
Many moons. That's a lot of it, and sometimes we can try and find, that layer buried, in the many accessible layers that's in OpenSpace. But because we are adapting so quickly to the questions, our educators don't have time sometimes to go through and look for this stuff, because what's really unique about our museum is that, I could be scheduling Space Odyssey one day, and then for the next month be scheduled off-site, and I won't get a chance to play around with OpenSpace for a while. So we do a lot of crazy things at the museum.
I guess just building on that, when that happens, I mean, can you work with Katoon to develop new buttons? Be like, okay, so we don't have quite what we need here.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting really excited for with the show composer as well, is that that's going to make it a lot easier for our educators. And there is a wide range of us too. Some of us do have science backgrounds, like myself. Others of us are retired teachers, and a lot of my colleagues are performers, so they are actors. So they may not have the science necessarily, but we can teach them the science. But yeah, trying to navigate the time and make it easier for us to find these layers does take time. So yeah, even like working with Dr. Kachun and Greg Moncari, it does take time.
Alrighty, next up we have Jackie Benitez from the Cal Academy of Sciences. Not sure. Slideshow.
Sure. All right. All right. So I was going to talk a little bit about making the most out of your presentations from different venues. Within the Academy, we are an ISI partner for OpenSpace. We've been using it for many, many, many years. So we've been developing different ways in which we use it, not just in the dome, but talk through a little bit about how we actually explore with OpenSpace. So the Morrison Planetarium is a tilted dome theater. We are actually quite tilted, 30 degrees. And because of that tall tilt, large tilt, we actually have all of our presentations are being done from the back of the room. So we are not in the front where we get to interact with people. So a lot of the tips and tricks that I have are based off of that. I don't get to see my audience. I don't actually can hear them. It is a 75-foot dome. So what's being said, even just on the other side of my pilot's booth, I cannot hear. I'm going to hear like the person like towards the bottom and in the corner because of the acoustics. So for Morrison Planetarium, when we're using OpenSpace, we do a lot of different types of programming. We do live science updates during our pre-recorded shows. So we actually cut halfway through our own shows, give a live science update using OpenSpace, and then go back to the pre-rendered show just to give a little bit more information and context of whatever the show is about. So for example, if we were running our incoming show, which was about asteroids and small objects in our solar system, and Atlas came, we could have talked about Atlas and brought in that trajectory to be able to explore a little bit further. We also have our Universe Update program, which is a live program given by our director to explore just what is new in science. So we're constantly adding new assets over and over again. Very quick timeline too. Usually he gives our engineers about a week and a half of what he wants to talk about, and then our engineers go and make that profile real quickly. And lots of new data sets. We also have our traditional shows, our Tour of the Moon, Tour of the Solar System, and Tour of the Universe. But mostly what we've been doing recently is our Benjamin Dean Lectures. It is once a month that we invite different scientists to come in and do a lecture within the planetarium. And we like to use the dome, not just put slides on our big dome. So we work with the scientists themselves to bring in some of their data, be able to visualize what they do, which has been really cool and exciting, which leads me to something that we do create to help us fly is these button sets. You might have seen them just recently. This is HTML programming. We have something new and better now. Actually, not better. I'd say equivalent, but also we can turn around buttons a lot faster. So I'm really, really excited. Usually we had to have our engineers actually program this for us. If they were super, super busy, it was really hard to get to our engineers to say, hey, can you make this small little tweak? Or could you add this one button? Now I can even do it. So this helps us fly. For us, we only have one presenter who is flying and talking at the exact same time. So to be able to do that and not have to search for the next thing that they're going to be doing, we use these button sets. And recently, we have had our very first piloting from the bottom of the dome. This happened just in the beginning of this month. Our dean lecturer came in and said, "Hey, I want to fly. I don't want to do it in front. I want to be or do it behind. I want to be in front." And we figured it out. We do have a cluster that drives our dome, and we have the typical, each computer goes to one projector, but we also have a additional computer that goes to a streaming platform, which we're able to stream out anything that we're producing in the dome out to YouTube or Facebook. But we realized that we could also then create a confidence monitor that can go down to the bottom of the dome. And so to be able to fly and look down at the bottom, we also, you might notice, I think she has an Xbox controller. So she's using the Xbox controller to fly. Right here is a touch screen, and that's where she has her buttons. And she was able to actually fly from the bottom, which made this, I think, one of our best dean lectures ever. She's an amazing speaker in general. We were really excited to have her. Rebecca Robinson, Dr. Rebecca Robinson from the SETI Institute with the Muse mission, NASA Muse mission. But on top of that, because she was in front of her audience, because she was able to interact with even just the couple of rows that were in front of her, it just pushed the program over and beyond what she could do. So being able to figure out how to get in front was a huge feat for our engineers, and I'm really thankful for them. And I was very jealous she was the very first one. But beyond that, we actually do programming with OpenSpace outside of the dome. We have 2 locations within our museum. One is called Hofeld Hall. It's a curved surface. It's kind of a rectangle shape. And we usually did 10 to 15 minute programming in there. They're usually scripted programs, but we have interaction within that space. And then we also have Science Today, which is very similar to what Denver is doing. So I'll probably go over that real quick, but I wanted to share what Hofeld Hall actually looks like. So we have the 3 projectors. You see our touch screen again. That's actually where it originated from. And so we have our presenter in front and usually a couple of seats for people who might need them. And this is how we control Hofeld, is either from that touch screen or we just have an iPad with those buttons and our Xbox controller. So that way our presenters are actually in front of our guests and they can be somewhat hands-free if they have put down one or the other. And this allows us to be really interactive. You may notice another friend. This is Mary when she was with us at the Academy. And this is actually one of our preschool shows. And one of the important things that we know about our younger audiences is that it's really helpful to be on their level. Not only with the content that you're actually saying, but also physically being on their level. So you can see them eye to eye. So we had all our presenters actually sit down with our guests, and we were exploring the different rocky planets. It was called Rocky Planet Picture Show. Yeah. Yes. And we talked about what is the same and what is different. What colors are we noticing on these different plants? So really simple ideas, but something to be able to explore a little bit more with our younger audiences. And then also we can really dive a little bit deeper into some other shows. We did a show called Landscapes in the Solar System, where we compared the different types of landscapes from Earth to objects in our solar system. So we're exploring canyons. And this is in open space. You can see layering on United States, and also then the Grand Canyon. So we can really get a sense of scale. And what was really cool about this space is that because we had that kind of rectangle kind of landscape, it was a really great space that we could figure out, like, oh, actually landscapes look absolutely beautiful here. So we really dived into what is our space really good at? Let's do that. So I'm not going to do a traditional tour of the universe in this space because it's not going to be able to really get you that immersive feeling. But I'm going to be able to look at the landscape of Mars and really find those details, not just what's in front of me, but to the sides as well. And you get a great eye for that. Something also we do is an interactive activity within our programming itself. So this was during our solar eclipse show, and we were able to talk about different size and scale, and so we actually invited guests to come up and try out and figure out how they are able to, how far they have to be for a tennis ball to look like the same size from their perspective as the beach ball, and then we would have a bigger ball and be able to move back and forth to be able to understand why we see eclipses here. So again, because in this space we have the ability to actually be in front of people, we add on to using OpenSpace as a resource. And then this is Science Today. This is our space where we get to have a flat screen and be a little bit more interactive and free flow. So we do have a little cart where we bring I think basically my laptop that I have here, just connect it through HDMI and then just project what is played on OpenSpace onto the screen. And we just ask guests where we want to go and explore. So it's a lot of fun to be able to do that. And then lastly, we do present virtually. We do live streams once a month, our tour of the universe. And the nice thing again about OpenSpace is that we literally can do this anywhere. I think most of the time Ryan and I are at home. We are not actually at the academy to do that. Yeah.
Going back to your Science Today, how far away is that screen from your space gallery?
Right back there, you can see kind of that banner that has like a little Earth right there.
Okay.
That's the planetarium.
Gotcha.
So pretty close, actually. And so we actually use a platform called StreamYard. And the reason why we use this platform is because we are streaming to various locations. So we stream to the Academy Facebook, Morrison Facebook, Academy YouTube, and the OpenSpace YouTube. And we're able to do one stream, and it all streams straight to all those various locations. So that's the nice thing. And it actually captures OpenSpace pretty well. We don't have to go like OBS to capture OpenSpace and then to another place, which we used to have to do for just streaming to straight YouTube. So that's kind of the nice thing as well. So that's my whirlwind of presenting in different places and some tips and tricks. Any other questions? Yeah.
Early on, you had the button slide where you had the analogous, like Hawaii versus Io and those. Where do you get references for things like that, or is that a research-related thing, or how do you sort of get those comparisons?
Yeah. So for this program, we were kind of thinking through. First, we wanted to figure out like what landscapes did we actually want to go and explore out in the solar system. So we actually did solar system first, then come back to Earth. And so for these, we knew we wanted to do volcanoes. Io, we were like, okay, we're definitely doing Io because that's where active volcanoes are happening, not extinct ones. We specifically chose Hawaii because those are the closest ones to us, not necessarily that they're completely analogous. And Also, the fact that you see chains, especially in the Pacific Ocean, you have that ring of fire, and so being able to see that ours are connected. So that's how we were able to figure that. Glaciers, mainly, you can see some really cool glaciers on Pluto, so Pluto is kind of obvious. The mountains, Mary, can you remind me why we picked the moon?
We picked the moon partly because it was a little bit surprising, and also we wanted to start like close and go out, and like because Mars we wanted to make it.
Yeah, and Mars, we didn't want to just go to Mars every single time. So we knew we were going to do the canyon for Mars. Yeah, Ryan.
I think we also wanted to highlight different mountain formation mechanisms.
Yeah.
Since the Himalayas are formed in a very different way.
And so throughout the program, we actually did, for the mountains specifically, we did also call out that like these are definitely different types of mountains. And that was the really cool thing because the Hadley was created from that crater. You can really see that it is a crater-formed mountain range. We talked about like, well, these might have been changed differently. Like, what do you notice here? So that they figured out that, oh, these were created in a totally different way, and not all mountains are created equally. All right. Thank you.
All right. One last presentation in this session. We're going to hear from Rachel Smith from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So, hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Smith. I'm from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. I'm an astronomer. And head of a research lab that's visible to the public, and my colleagues are here too, Patrick Troithart and Hugo Romero Sanchez. And I'm just going to talk. We were here for the ISI meeting, so if you were here, you might see some of the same stuff. And I'll talk specifically about some of the public programming and exhibits that we have done using OpenSpace. So on the left, you'll see a picture of kind of our exhibit floor on the third floor of one of our buildings. We have two buildings. And our research lab, which is towards the back, there where you see the moon in the corner, and there's a glass walls. So this is one of the labs that was intended to show scientists at work and what do we do and how do we do it. And astronomers, of course, were on our computers all day. So we kind of converted this, used this space as an exhibit, kind of an exhibition type of space where we engage visitors visually, since the lab is not open to the public usually, although sometimes we do open it for visitors to come in and talk to us. And so there's a long view of the lab. And I'll talk about how OpenSpace was really an amazing project for us, because this lab had nothing in it when I started 10 years ago. So the funding from OpenSpace enabled us to get these screens, and in particular enabled me to hire interns to create what I've been calling a digital narrative in the lab. And that is, I have internships each summer, undergraduates from my university, Appalachian State in Boone. So it's 3 hours from Raleigh. So they come for the summer and create kind of their own storyboard with my guidance. And Patrick also works in the lab. He's the other astronomer. And we work with them to help them think about ways we can tell a visual story and record videos in OpenSpace, stitch them together using Premiere, and put text overlay on them. And so, of course, we have all sorts of content from Earth out to the cosmic microwave background, covering our planet out to, the research we do. So I work on star formation, and Patrick works on galaxies and covering that, and also the search for life. I teach astrobiology, so a lot of these students come from my classes, astrobiology and star formation. This guy, Mason, he was amazing. I give him a little shout out with his picture there. And some updates we've recently had, kind of experimenting with more text. I know text is kind of obviously old, what else can we do? But we don't have audio with this lab, but it is a way to pull people through the floor to see that we do astronomy at the museum. We're the only 2 astronomers there, and traditionally there weren't astronomers. I was the first one hired as an astronomer at this museum. And we are a large museum. We're free. We're the largest natural history museum in the Southeast. And so we do pull in a lot of audiences that would normally be able to come to a space like this. So we have thematic questions now and statements integrated with a storyboard. And it's always an evolving work in progress. And OpenSpace has enabled us to hire these interns to create this content. I love space weather. I think it's amazing. I love these visuals. So I included here the magnetic fields are beautiful. And OpenSpace is so beautiful. I say, you know, the value of OpenSpace, data-driven. As a scientist, I heard some other people talk about this. As a scientist, the data-driven aspect is so important, but it's beautiful. And we have to remember that people like pretty things. And they really do, and I do too. And so I like colors, I like the colorful stuff. The open space also for our research, you know, it's hard to sometimes start out of the gate with spectroscopy and what is that, and bringing in connections to asteroids and impacts, and we can connect other visuals with open space content, so impacts that are important to Earth, and we have meteorites. I also curate our small meteorite collection, so tying in collections to the lab has been recently something we've been trying to do. And I can share any of this later if anyone's like, I like that video, or you don't like it, you could tell me that stinks, I don't know. But that one was bad. But so these are some other interns. I'm showing these guys, these were a couple of years ago. I had a few interns, and I'll point out that the 2 on the left, so Alex and Olivia, they all worked on different projects, and Rachel on the right, she worked with me on research, not open space, but they all worked together, and she commented, they were using her to comment. Like, I didn't even know, they all work as a little team, and they were like, oh yeah, Rachel's been helping us tell what looks good, because they were moved from the project, so they are able to comment. So they're very smart about figuring out ways to vet their content before even I see it, or Patrick sees it. And so this is an older version of the lab, so this is a couple years ago. We since got it painted. I've been pushing for that paint job for years, and finally, to stop me from crying about it, they did it. But Olivia especially, she created these, we had some extra money from COVID money that we weren't able to do a lot of stuff, to upgrade 4 kiosks that were on the floor on our exhibit floor. And moving out from the lab, like, we have a lot, we can kind of do whatever we want in the lab, which is nice. So we have this space to create what we want to do. But the exhibit floor, we need to work with other teams, and we were able to get money to then create, my interns created the videos. They're like small, like on-demand little videos, just like 45 seconds max, with some text, with different themes. And then the exhibits and digital media team created this overlay, like a very simple interface, so people could just press it. And I'll say what was really nice is that our museum is not a tactile museum, it's not the science center, and it really enabled, surprisingly to me, and I'm always happy to see little tiny kids just looking at it, and even if obviously they're not learning about everything there is to know, but they're doing something that's meaningful to the parents, and there's a place to sit. And I will say, I will emphasize that has been something that having some chairs has been nice. And for people, you can see them sitting in these chairs, and then they look and they're like, oh, like, well, let's press this. And I've seen them interact. Every time I go into the museum, I see someone interacting. Groups, single opportunities, school groups, they love to press the stuff. They love to touch things, as everyone knows. And they do it together. And that's nice to see. And it's not the typical type of thing we do at our museum. We have natural history and fossils and all sorts of stuff like here. And I have various videos. I just was showing some examples of the content. So hiring interns who have some visual sense is good, and also some background. It's a hard balance sometimes to measure, and finding really motivated students has been really great, especially when they do an amazing job without a lot of direction. And I want them to do it and be proud of what they do at the end. And that's really important. And then another thing is, as I mentioned, the meteorites, I thought, I really like connecting with the specimens. And we had that meteorite on the left. Oh, sorry. That's our Apollo sample, Apollo 17. We're State Museum. We all got the Goodwill rocks. It's a really interesting story about Apollo 17. So Jack Schmidt collected all these samples. He's a geologist who went to the moon. And every state and some countries got a rock. So that little rock, that's all we had for the moon. So I got this meteorite, and we created a little label, and working with exhibits to create this light box. And actually, Denton Abel here, I was like, hey, Denton, how do we maybe look at and he's like, oh, use LEDs. So we connected on that. He's a friend, and it was really nice to have his comments on this. And then the exhibits made this little box in North Carolina, and it's very attractive because it's bright and lit up and changing colors. And so kids, you want to make these robust guys, I'm sure you all know, because they grab on for dear life and, yank it around. Meteorite's all good. Everything's locked in. It's also alarmed. So like state police rappel in if something happens, so everything's alarmed that's needed to be. And then the interns one of my interns, Alex, who I showed in the other picture, created this video, little movie. It was really nice connection with OpenSpace and archival NASA footage. So this was done a couple of years ago in time for the anniversary of Apollo. We had several anniversaries, like 11 and 17. And this is a little bit of a story of Apollo 17, collecting the rock. And then the meteorite is about the origin of the moon. So it's a nice little corner there. And adults typically like to watch the moon video, nostalgia, and then they all look at the rock and stick their faces on the light box. The latest exhibit I'll just mention is, I really like the exhibit aspect of what I'm able to do. I wanted to bring meteorites closer to the lab to have a physical connection. So how to do that, we moved some screens around, and I wanted to try to tell a little story about how meteorites come from space to the actual museum, not stopping with just the meteorite that's picked up, but how do we get those meteorites? I don't see that story being told a lot, and I'm showing that picture there of Hasna Chinoui, who's in Morocco, and I know her, and she does a lot of work with people in Morocco collecting meteorites and trying to have a geoheritage aspect to the work and keeping meteorites in Morocco. I wanted to try to tell a little bit of that story. So we have the first version of this. I tried to put the video on here, but it ballooned to 8 more gigabytes, and I knew Megan was going to be like, no, sir, that's it. So no more gigs it was actually, and it died. Okay, something happened there. Cancel, I got it. Do what? Don't share. That's all good. Oh, okay, thank you. So I showed some screenshots, and then to get some meteorites, I tried to get an exhibit case, but we ended up just getting this desiccator, which I really prefer because it keeps the meteorites in a very low vacuum. I can use it to show delicate samples like Tarda or Martian meteorite, which is there, and play around with it and interchange it. And it has a little science aspect to it. So it's not a polished case, but I kind of like that. And these are just some screenshots. So we have a bit of the asteroid belt, meteor crater, impacts, and then Hasna gave me some photos of them collecting Tarda out in Morocco, and then trying to tell a little bit of the story, like just through text of how, they pass through dealers and come to the museum. Hasna's there, her student, Denton, and me at the METSOC, the Meteoritical Society conference in Morocco. So a lot of the conferences I go to, we try to use OpenSpace and connect that way. And Hasna also has used OpenSpace in her exhibit in Casablanca. That's our little sample of Tarda. It's small. I try to zoom in. And then public programs. I know I have only a few minutes, so just a few highlights. We do a lot of these things with different events. We have a theater. I'll just go a little fast. Special events using OpenSpace in all sorts of ways to tell stories on different themes: astrobiology, impact cratering, comparative planetology, connecting with our science. So all of that is possible with OpenSpace. It has endless possibilities to tell stories, and I really love it for that. Sometimes I overlay slides with Star Wars Day, right? You can't say no to that request. And then that's me presenting. And then UFO Day they wanted. I'm like, absolutely, I'll do that. So there's something with OpenSpace we can do for UFO Day. And every time I present something with OpenSpace, I tell people about OpenSpace, give them the little cards we have about downloading it, and there's a lot of interest. And then I'll just probably skip this because we don't have time, connecting with our research, as I mentioned, flying over Mauna Kea and some of the stuff from my work. And then, I don't really have time anymore, but underserved audiences, we do a lot with this through North Carolina. recently went to Idaho, to some places that would never be able to have see open space, went to Boise, and then to Haley, which is in a dark sky reserve up in the ski country of Idaho, which was really fun. And they're always so happy to see it. It's a beautiful, beautiful program. And then Hugo, we had this event, which is, can you pronounce it for me? So for one.
So this is the Día de la Ciencia y la Cultura, so it's the Day of Science and Culture, and it's when Rachel was doing the Open Space program bilingual. So she was talking and another person was translating.
We had a scientist, just like what Hugo and I did. So yeah, and Hugo is in charge of this event, and we were able to collaborate this year, and it was really fun. And he brought in a lot of culture and science connections. So I'll stop there. Does anyone have questions or? Right? Yeah. Oh, you looked like I was like, I don't know, you don't have questions. Okay. Well, that's all. Thank you.